Yes, my name is Kenneth Loch of the TENNISSANCE method. Just want to get into what I'm calling the interdisciplinary exercise of tennis. So let's see, I'm just getting into the idea that just dealing with the nature of the exercise of tennis and, you know, just ways of understanding it. And then let's see, I just did one called ambidextrous exercise of tennis. So it's just, I'll play on this a little bit. So the idea of the interdisciplinary exercise of tennis. So it turns out that when it comes to exercise, it turns out that we could say that all exercises are interdisciplinary. So the idea is that, kind of the TENNISSANCE method, this method represents actually the first opportunity for, say, tennis players to recognize tennis as, well, actually as an exercise, and then the nature of how it's, say, interrelated with another exercise. And let's see, when it comes to exercise in particular, it would be, say, a mind-body exercise. So the basis of an exercise that integrates the mind and body, integrates, say, mental health, physical health, integrates intelligence and coordination. So it's just the idea that, how now the TENNISSANCE method is providing the means for that. And so the idea is that now to understand how the exercise of tennis is interrelated with, say, another exercise. Probably maybe the best example or best means for like looking into this would be through, so say, yoga. Kind of yoga. People, equate yoga to be a mind-body exercise. So, and so, how is, say, the exercise of tennis interrelated with the exercise of yoga? So it would be just like a kind of comparative kind of thing. It would be just to compare them, so to understand, say, the similarities, but then to understand, the differences. Let's see, the idea that it would be best if there weren't any differences. The idea of how, say, tennis would be, we could just, boom, it's just like a template, whatever, and they both would fit into the same matrix, say, or the idea that it's just the nature of, just say, tennis and then yoga as both being a mind-body exercise. So the idea now is that again, the TENNISSANCE method is kind of the first teaching method to teach tennis as a mind-body exercise, and we actually haven't had someone like myself who has, in a sense, reached enlightenment and who has kind of atoned for, say, the mind-body gap, and to understand that gap in relation to the connection. So the connection to the mind and body, like I was saying, it would be could be recognized in relation to, say, the connection between mental health and physical health, and then also, so say, coordination and intelligence, and how they are, say, interrelated when it comes to, say, the mind-body connection. Yeah, I'm just kind of probably repeating myself a lot, but just to nail this down a little bit here. So the idea that historically we have not recognized, say, tennis or yoga as, say, interdisciplinary, and that's what I'm actually providing now, kind of in relation to the exercise of tennis. I would have to say that maybe I don't know enough about yoga to really to make a complete conclusion, say, but yeah. So, but the what I'm going on is kind of like just say the basis of tennis, and it being a mind-body exercise, and that. Now, tennis can be understood as an exercise, and which it has, and then the idea is that if from a say a specialized perspective in relation to yoga, somebody who would practice yoga, say, and the idea is that how they would not recognize it as in relation to, say, tennis. And then the idea there is that, if they weren't aware of that connection, the basis of their lack of, say, understanding in relation to the nature of, say, tennis in relation to kind of historically that it has represented itself as a sport, a competitive sport, and where you develop one arm. So, and now I'm bringing it over to where it's an exercise and you develop both arms. So the idea that, the TENNISSANCE method would be the closest representation of a interrelationship between tennis and yoga. And the idea is that what I'm doing is I'm actually teaching right now. So the idea is that this information that I'm passing along would be good for someone to say digest and understand, and with that, then ultimately that would represent kind of the foundation for their education, for their interdisciplinary education, say, in relation to actually their physical education. So it just turns out that historically, say our educational system has not provided the means for kind of this understanding, and as a result, ultimately what it has done and what it is doing is it's actually causing students, say, to kind of become specialized, and then with that, then they actually don't have a perspective on the interrelationship between two exercises, tennis and yoga, say. And so the idea now that I'm here to kind of bring because I'm bringing kind of the nature of the atonement of the mind and body. So this nature of this atonement, it's actually a correction. So I'm actually providing now some correction, because ultimately, and the correction, it's not, let's say a correction, it would be just the idea that what I'm bringing to the table is kind of can be recognized in relation to the evolution of our consciousness. So it's the idea is that now there's kind of the doors open now to entertain the idea of a interdisciplinary relationship with tennis and yoga. And let me see if I can get into this a little bit more here. The idea that historically we've recognized tennis as a sport, and we haven't recognized it as an exercise. So the idea that now it can be recognized as an exercise, and the idea that yoga is an exercise, right? I mean, it's something that people do physically, and then the idea that let's just say that for tennis now, I represent the genius who has reached enlightenment, say, and the atonement, and represents the standard for, say, a teacher. So the idea is that when it comes to yoga, what the idea of the standard, the basis for recognizing a teacher, and then the idea is that to be a mind-body exercise, it really requires there to be a teacher. So that the question that I would have for yoga would be the idea is that who was the teacher, and the interesting thing there is that the reason why tennis needed to reach this point and come to this enlightenment that I witnessed was the fact that it was kind of, it's never been in the light. Say it's kind of in a sense been in the dark, and now I'm going to bring it over into the light. Say. So the idea with yoga, the idea of it's the practice of yoga. It's always whole body. So there, in a sense, the focus of yoga, I would have to say, that would be based on developing the whole body and developing, say, a perfection in relation to that. And then the goal would be to reach your highest potential in relation to the practice. And so with this that I'm getting to here is the idea that yoga, in a sense, has always been enlightened. It because it didn't become unenlightened. And and then if it did become unenlightened, what caused that? Was it the same with tennis, and the fact that it never really began when it comes to it being an exercise? It began as a sport, and just has been a sport and now it's time for it to become an exercise. So the idea is to understand yoga. Say if again, I don't know that well to understand or recognize, and the basis of the teacher would be of yoga. Say they would be, or the original yogi would represent the means for understanding the difference between the enlightened state versus the unenlightened state. What you would do while you were enlightened versus what you would be doing when you're unenlightened. And that's really valuable insight for yoga, and then insight into understanding how yoga is interrelated with tennis.